There he
I'd like
is.
to say congratulations to Dale Whitnell. It's Dale Whitnell, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. He's a golfer on the DP World Tour. They got a tournament going on right now. He hit a hole-in-one on the second hole of the day to go to 5 under par. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
He then hit a hole-in-one on the 12th.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So hole-in-one on the second, hole-in-one on the 12th. I bring that up only because you and I have both played with Gary Gerould before and honored enough to be able to do that. And that's something I feel like he's done a few times.
Probably every time.
Good morning, G-Man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Good.
2 holes in one round. I mean, that you've been close, right? We've all been close. I feel like
everybody done that. Yeah, I'm sure. I've never had a hole in one in my career.
Ooh, me neither. You have one, right, Dave?
I do. I have. Well, yes, I have one. I have one, and I always ask this question. I have one legitimate. I dunked it when I was in Oregon off the fly, and then so this doesn't count, right? My buddy and I were at Wood Creek. This was like 12 years ago, and it was a par 3, and we were each hitting 2 balls because it was just the 2 of us. There was nobody there in the afternoon. First one I teed off. I think I bunkered it. And then the second one went in the hole. But you can't, I don't count that.
I gotcha.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
G-Man, that doesn't count as a hole-in-one, right?
No.
No. Yeah.
No.
And
after further review, no.
No. How are you enjoying the road? As we always have to ask you before we get to Kings basketball, how is the food treating you? Are there any places or dishes that you have been able to on this short road trip so far get yourself into?
No, pretty basic. Did visit Maggiano's here in Houston last evening. Maggiano's is one of my favorite places. I enjoy simple, some pasta, and that was good. Yeah, enjoyed that.
That's good.
Honestly,
yeah,
can't go wrong with pasta.
Not at all. Not at all. G-Man, Houston tomorrow. I think there's a lot of excitement for that game based on the 2 wins the Kings had prior, but this one's gonna be a tough one tomorrow. What are some of the things you're going to be looking for when you're calling that game as far as the outlook for the Kings in that one?
Well, I think that we all know the schedule really ratchets up now for the Sacramento Kings. That's why it was so important to take care of business against Charlotte and against Utah, because you're not going to have those type of opportunities here in the very near future. And it's just going to be one tough game after another. Kings won the first 2, as you mentioned, against Houston. The thing that I'm looking at now for the Kings, I think you've got to get more scoring punch off the bench, no question, and you've got to cut down the turnovers. Turnovers have been a problem here in the last handful of games, and when you're playing good quality teams, and I consider Ime Udoka's Houston Rockets a good quality team in the Western Conference, you just can't afford to have those type of things happen. So I think those are probably the 2 key areas that I'm looking at right now.
G-Man, I know you love all the players you cover. I know at the center of it all, you're just such a huge fan of the sport. But when the Kings acquire a player like Zach LaVine, I mean, obviously De'Aaron Fox was a fun guy to play-by-play for, but is there a little part of you that gets even a little more excited knowing that you're definitely, and you already are going to have some pretty awesome moments to call with that guy and the way he plays?
Well, you hope that that's the case, certainly. And I loved, of course, the reaction of Malik Monk after LaVine went for, 42 the other night. He's about time.
Yeah.
It just broke everybody up. But I like that kind of relationship, and that's what makes these characters each in their own way so very special. And it's fun anticipating that that's going to happen. I almost stopped Keegan Murray after his warm-up session the other night in Salt Lake City, and I was going to tell him, and I didn't, because he's quiet and he doesn't go out of his way to intermingle from a social standpoint. But I was going to tell him, I really think this is going to be your night, and I was thinking in terms of about 31 to 34 points.
Wow!
And to see him go for 26, which was the season high, man, that was cool. And if you can get Keegan back in that comfort zone, I like so much this year that because so much emphasis is placed on his defense, and he's always having to defend one of the top opponents, but to see him add to his game in the sense of his authoritative drives to the basket, more involved in that sense, I think has been a real step in his growth. And we forget sometimes that, he's only in his third year. And sometimes we expect, I think, and demand too much from our basketball heroes. And sometimes the reality is you got to give it a chance, let it breathe, it's kind of like when you were preparing food for that funeral.
That's hilarious.
Thank you for listening.
Why did you have that hunch, G-Man? That's interesting that you thought, hey, Keegan, this is your night.
It was just one of those things, and it was the same thing at shoot around that morning, and I'm watching him, and I'm thinking, man, this guy's he is ready to have a breakout game. And I think that one of his previous big breakout, well, it was the career game was against Utah, was it not?
Yeah.
I had forgotten that. And I thought, okay, you should have a little confidence. Let's see what happens.
How fun has it been also? I was trying to think while we were talking. I'm sure I'm maybe missing somebody, but is Doug the first player you've coached that went on, or I'm sorry, is Doug the first player you've play-by-played for that has gone on to become a coach for the Kings? It's got to be, right? I got to think.
Reggie Theus.
I apologize. It's got to be something great about that, other than the fact that we're all getting old, to be able to go on that journey the whole way, player, assistant coach, and watch the man grow from that young kid coming up to who he is now in charge of the team.
Absolutely, and it's fun. I enjoyed listening to a bit of the conversation from yesterday that Doug had with Chris and company. And I just, it's special because you get to know these guys and you get to appreciate them as human beings, and you get to know, in some instances, members of their family in one thing or another. And of course, you want them to succeed. You want them to have success. But Doug Christie's he's special in so many different ways. And I listened to him. One of the beauties in the last couple of years is the Kings allow folks like myself as part of the broadcast and traveling party to attend shoot around practices, whatever. And you go to shoot around and you sit there as they break down the video and the highlights of what they're going to work on against that evening's opponent. And Doug allows you to do that. And he came over and sat next to me, or sat in front of me yesterday, always wanting to know everything okay, got any questions, etc. And he's remarkable in that aspect. But back to what I was about to try to make the point. What he says repeatedly to the media in different situations is so spot on and is so real, and his intensity and his desire to have fun and to have success is palpable. And that's one of the things that I think makes him very special. And it's one of the reasons why I openly root for him. I want him to have success. I want him to put the Kings in a position where they say, we need to make this guy our full-time coach in the future, not an interim coach. And, we don't know how any of that will play out. And we know how tough the schedule is going to be. We know how high expectations are. But I'm a big Doug Christie fan, and I want him to have success. And I think he's deserving of that success.
And it seems too, G-Man, I mean, when you've talked to players after game, shoot around, just around traveling, I think it lands well with them too. Doesn't it appear to be the same case? Like Doug's experience playing here, playing in this organization, playing for these fans. I just think everything he's also said to them appears like it's landing well with them too.
Yeah, I think that's the case. And you always wonder with a head coach. I mean, and we saw it with Mike Brown. You wonder, well, when is it possibly going to end? Or will there come a point where players suddenly become tired of hearing the same message from a coach? And how will that impact the performance of the team? And so, you wonder about that. I don't know that you worry about that, but I think that's a very real part of it. And right now, the message that Doug is preaching is being accepted. And I like the way the Kings respond to that. And, I think that they have a trust and a respect for him at the same time, which I think is so important to any success in any venture, be it in sports or in business or whatever.
In your experience, G-Man, who sets the culture tone more? Is it the coach or is it the players, or does it depend?
Good question. And I don't know I'm not sure that I have an answer for that.
Okay.
I think it's a combination of both without, and that may sound like a cop out, but I think it is. I think it is a combination on both sides of the street.
As we look at kind of the league on a night-to-night basis, G-Man, there's still the log jam for the Kings at 10-6, and Phoenix keeps going the wrong way, and it feels like there's a little bit of wiggle room. Not that they want to play with that as far as teams catching them, but how much are you watching what's happening nightly? How much do you think the guys, Doug, all of them are kind of watching what's happening around them?
I can't speak for Doug and the guys on the ball club, but I know I'm invested, and I'm too invested. And I watch these games every night, and I'm scoreboard watching, and I'm checking. I'm saying, and this is going on and off. And who do you root for tonight? And last night, the Lakers against Minnesota, and it's hard for me to root for the Lakers at any time. But last night I was rooting for the Lakers, and I wanted to see them handle Minnesota. And every night's a little different in that respect. But man, I'm invested, and I'm watching it, and I'm agonizing at different times, and I'm rejoicing at other times. And I don't know about how the Kings are. They're aware. They may play it off, but they know what's going on, and they know which teams are hot and having a big night. And by the way, how about Steph Curry last night? Woo, my
goodness. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I was saying it earlier. I'm just going out on a limb here. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. That's what I'm saying. That's my big prediction.
Yeah.
Wow.
G-Man, we've known each other. We've all known each other a very, very, very long time. And oftentimes Jason and I will be talking about frustrations, and we'll bring your name up because you've seen pretty much every second of Kings basketball over these 40 years. And sometimes when we play the previous day's highlights, we'll, in a particularly bad loss, we'll remark on, the worst G-Man we like. The G-Man we least want to hear is disappointed G-Man. And sometimes we hear disappointed G-Man at the end of a game. But I just got to ask you, I am not well with this team, and I've been that way a long time. I really, really roller coaster my emotions. It affects my mood. I know you just got done saying that you of course live and die with the team, but how do you, we follow each other on Facebook. I see you going on walks with your headphones in. How do you keep from being a nut job like me when it comes to this team, because you're around it so much?
Well, it's a good question. And I think there are times when you have to, you have to talk to yourself. And I do. I say, all right, now, I don't talk out loud to myself, but in my mind, I'm saying, find something positive. Don't be dragged down by a negative performance. And yeah, I get disgusted just like fans do at different times. You see a rash of turnovers and some bonehead plays that lead to disgusting basketball. And I think, and this is just my thought, as a broadcaster, I think it's my role. If they're stinking up the joint, I got to tell people they're stinking up the joint.
Yeah.
And I don't like doing that. And what I worry about is I don't want to become a negative Nelly. I want to find something in every night's performance that you can look at and say, that was pretty cool, or that was special. And that's the beauty, I think, of the NBA and the amazing talent that we all, and this is a blanket statement, but we all take for granted far too often. These guys and what they're capable of doing on a nightly basis just boggles your mind. And I love being a part of it. And I love seeing it. And of course, those are special on a night when, you see Zach LaVine in his 8th game with the Kings, 7th game, whatever it was, go for 42 points and get in one of those zones. When you see a Doug McDermott come off the bench in the 4th quarter at Golden One Center and light it up from downtown, and the way the fans get involved, those are the type of things that make me tingle inside. And I get excited about that. And I look forward to being able to see that. And you want to be able to share that with Kings fans and a Kings audience. And yes, I know that, in a day and age for the last decade where every game is available to watch on some sort of streaming device or on television, that radio is kind of back there in the closet. But radio still serves a purpose in my mind. And I'm so fortunate that I, at my age, still get the opportunity to be involved and I get excited when the Kings do something that's worthy of something special and something that engages fans and gets them involved and engaged. So I cherish those moments, and I hope that we have a whole lot more of them. But I'm also a realist, and we mentioned this upcoming stretch, and it's tough. And Dave, I saw your survey about how many games are the Kings going to win in this stretch coming up, and it's going to be tough. But without trying to sound too much like a cliche-ish coach, you can't look at that big picture in that sense. You've got to look at your opponent of that night, and you've got to find a way to be better than them. And if you can do that, you might find yourself in that mix. And you're still within the possibility of making the playoffs and not a play-in scenario. As Jason mentioned, only 2 games separate 6 through 10.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of basketball to be played between now and the second week of April or so, which ends the regular season.
The great Gary Gerould, the artist painting the picture
Yes.
on radio for all of us, joins us. And while we're philosophizing a bit here, G-Man, you just clicked something in my head. You hear the conversations about what's wrong with the NBA, and there's things that are broken. Look, yeah, as we just said, you've called damn near every second of Kings basketball for 40 plus years. You've gone from Joe Klein and Hakeem Olajuwon to Keegan Murray and Amen Thompson. You've seen everything in between. When you look at the NBA now, and you're such a fan, you can hear it in your voice. When you look at it now, as opposed to the days of Michael Jordan and Charles Barkley, is it better? Is it worse? Is it the same? When you hear those conversations, what goes through your head?
Well, I think it's always evolving, like anything. And I think that you have to be in the moment, and you have to accept it. I mean, what choice do you have? You either like it or you don't like it. And if you don't like it, find something else to like. I enjoy the NBA. And yeah, it's a lot different. And there are nights when you scratch your head and you say, I'm not sure I understand why this call was reviewed and this outcome was reached and the decision that was reached from the replay center or whatever. But that's part of it. And I'm a big believer in if you can't change the scenario, then just deal with the hand you're dealt. And I think that maybe that oversimplifies things, but that's kind of the way I look at life in the NBA. And it's interesting how it evolves and the different stages it goes through. And now we're seeing kind of a bit of return to a little more physicality in the game, I think, than maybe in the last few years. But it's so far removed from what we saw, 20 years ago, when you think about the Detroit Pistons and some of those slugfests, literally slugfests, that they would get into with their opponents, and how that was life at that time in the NBA. But the athleticism continues to accelerate, and to see players do what they're due, the ball handling capabilities, the physical ability to change direction, to contort, to twist once you've left the floor and finish a play. Those are the things that just keep getting better and better and better. And I think those are part of the reasons why the NBA is still a great property. And I look back, sometimes you say you look over a long period of time. What David Stern did in his time as commissioner of the NBA, because when he took that job, his role in the mid 80s, early 80s, the NBA was kind of on the ropes, and there were a lot of problems that they had to deal with that pertained to drugs and some other things that were really shady. And to see how the league has evolved, and I just saw something last night, and I didn't really digest the full extent of the numbers, but the average value of an NBA franchise now is in excess of $2 billion.
Man.
And when you think that 40 years ago, the Sacramento Kings were purchased for $10 million, $10 million versus now $2 billion plus, that's staggering. And it's exciting.
Yeah. G-Man, one thing I was thinking about the other night when I wasn't with you, it was the road game in Utah. You're calling the game, and you're talking about talking to yourself. I was doing the same thing here in the studio going, man, I remember being with G-Man, maybe let's talk a media day to preseason and maybe the opening of the season. But there was a moment last game, I had this thought. You were describing these. I know these 4 players were on the floor because this is what triggered it. LaRavia, Valanciunas, Levine, and Fultz while being coached by Doug Christie. And I'm going, how different is that from October, from December? I mean, it's also bizarre how quickly this league can change.
Boy, isn't that the truth? And I hadn't thought of it in that scope, but you're absolutely right. I mean, it's amazing. Here we are in it's going to be March 1st tomorrow?
Yeah.
But how quickly it does change. And the Kings have seen that firsthand. And we expect, I think as fans, you want to see it come together real quickly. And the reality is it doesn't happen that way. And I think it will get better and better for the Kings. And it has to if you want to be competitive in this tough Western Conference.
Last question for you, G-Man, and we really appreciate your time and look forward to hearing you right here on Sactown Sports tonight versus the Rockets. We have a contest going on at the station, and we get a point every time a guest shows up on our YouTube, which of course you're doing that right now. Would it be too much to ask if we send you the link? We also get another point if you share it on any form of social media. So you could do it on your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn. It doesn't matter. Twitter. Just got to share the link. Is that going to is that preying on our friendship too much, or do you think that'll work?
I haven't given it a lot of thought, but I don't know why it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, I wish you could see the text.
Very supportive.
I know that you. We know you're the most humble guy in the world. I just want to say, I hope it doesn't hurt. I wish you could see the text we get. I wish you could see the chat where everybody is just. We are so thankful for Gary Gerould. We are so blessed. We are the fans adore you, and I know you don't take that for granted. It's one of those things like, Jason's one of those people where I always say if I ever run into anybody that doesn't like Jason, there's a problem with that person.
Absolutely.
And you have the same effect on all of Kings Nation. I want to make sure even though you are humble, how adored you are in these times of ups and downs and fits and starts and losing and not making the playoffs and anything bad, that you are the one security blanket that has been consistent all these years, that even in the coldest of times, fans can wrap your voice around them and feel like they're at home. So thank you on behalf of everybody I'm looking at right now.
Dave, that's thank you guys. That's very, very kind. And I'm not sure that I'm worthy of that, but I appreciate it. And I know how fortunate I am to have this opportunity. I'm the lucky one. I'm the blessed one.
Well, then you're welcome, G-Man, for coming on the show. I guess we'll say that. have a great time. We love you to death. Thank you so much. Have a great call tonight, sir.
All right. And hey, Chris Vallon, nice to see you in the background.
See you, G-Man.
Thank you.
He's the best.
Yes, he is.
That
was fun.
Honestly, I wish there was a way you could bottle G-Man in a prescription bottle and just remember I was asking earlier, like, how do you, anytime I'm feeling excessively psychotic about this team, I just down a couple of pills of G-Man.
Yeah.
Maybe with some food, obviously, so you don't get an upset stomach. I don't know how it works. And because every time I talk to him, my mood increases by 30%.
How many of us, including Kings fans, when the Kings finally made the playoffs, were like, thank God, G-Man
100%, dude.
Agreed, 100%.
100%.
I got this personal text.
Yeah.
G-Man is the best. After a really hard week, I really needed to experience that interview. Thank you. Look at that.
It's almost like if he had the time, we should I know we have Friday Fun and Games, but somehow we should fit like a final segment of the week with G-Man, like year round, just like, like Deep Thoughts with Jack Andy.
Yeah. Well, even like he said, sometimes I talk to myself. I almost like, G-Man, just talk to the people. Just talk to us.
Talk to us.
Let that out.
Pick up the phone. Yeah. Come on. And I don't know. I know we got a ring. Okay. This is so fanboy of me. Anytime he comes on and he does this more often than not. And he like references something that happened in the show. I'm like, he listens.
I know. And then I said, we were talking about like whatever.
Exactly. I'm like,
Mount Brothersmore
funeral
food. And he brought that up.
He did.
It's like, oh no, I'm ashamed.
I said cocaine earlier.
But I mean, honestly, every game. I mean,
Yeah.
I miss the home games because I like to be there. I mean,
Sure.
but it's also because you're there. I'm right next to him and just watching him work and just being around him. He's just a lot of fun.
Yes, he's the best.
Yep.
All right, we'll take a break. And by the way, yeah, I told him have a good call tonight. I don't know why
You're on tonight's
I don't know
game
why
for
I'm on
something,
tonight's game. Thank you for not correcting me, even though you know, whatever. We'll take a break. I'm stupid. When we come back,